much again. And as is our tradition, we will, God willing, begin glorifying the name of God, creator of all of us. And to do this, we have a young man from this community from Anaheim, Harun Sayyid, and he will, inshallah, God willing, recite a few verses from the scripture and then read the translation. And after that, I will come back to us and then share with you how the evening will proceed. Assalamu alaikum.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قد أفلح المؤمنون الذين هم في صلاتهم خاشعون والذين هم عن اللغو معرضون والذين هم للزكاة فاعلون والذين هم لفروجهم حافظون إلا على أزواجهم أو ما ملكت أيمانهم فإنهم غير ملومين فمن ابتغى وراء ذلك فأولئك هم العادون والذين هم لأماناتهم وعهدهم راعون والذين هم على صلواتهم يحافظون أولئك هم الوارثون الذين يرثون الفردوس هم فيها خالدون. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Indeed, successful are those believers who are humble in their prayers, who avoid vain talk, who are punctual in the payment of zakat, charity, who guard their private parts except from their spouses or those who are legally in their possession, for in that case they shall not be blamed. However, those who go to seek beyond that and lust are the ones who have transgressed. Those who are true to their covenants and trusts and who are diligent about their prayers, these are the heirs who will inherit paradise and live therein forever. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Harun. Before we start the program, I'd like to request my dear brother Samir Subra, if he's around here somewhere. Brother Samir Subra is the president of this Masjid Islamic Institute of Orange County and also the vice chairman of Islamic Shura Council of Southern California. And he will welcome all of us and then we will proceed.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the owner and the dispenser of mercy. And on behalf of the Islamic Institute of Orange County and the Islamic Shura of Southern California, I welcome you and I praise you and I salute you for coming to this important town hall meeting. This meeting is not about the students only. I believe, and we all should believe, that this case is about all of us, about how we should tolerate and refuse injustice and practice our speech. And I assure you too that this case is going to affect my children, your children, and our generations to come. And thank you for supporting everyone. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much, Samir. As I invite all the grooms of the day, the 10 brothers whose name tags are here, if you would be so kind to please come up and take your spaces. We are going to get you married today. there are a few more chairs empty, and I'm sure they are on their way. The last I heard, they all are single. Or some are not. They can go for a second one. My apologies. I want to create a festive environment today, not a somber one. This is an evening to celebrate, not to lament, not to mourn. The evening will go more or less as follows. In the next few minutes, we will have some of these young men will speak to us of their experience, of their wisdom, and of their message to all of us. Following that will be some of our partners to seek justice from faith communities and social justice organizations. They will share some reflections as well. By approximately around 5 or so, or a little before 5, we will break for the afternoon prayers. Those of you who like to observe, we can go in the sanctuary behind us and experience how Muslims pray. Then we will come back by about 5:15, 5:20, and then we will carry on the evening until perhaps around 6:30 or so, and then leave the last half an hour for fellowship and meeting with each other. Before I invite my brothers here to speak, allow me to share these words that I read, and I'm sure some of you as well may have read in today's Los Angeles Times, an editorial that was written in this regard. On Friday, in a case that never should have been filed, a jury delivered guilty verdicts against 10 of the 11 Muslim students who disrupted a UC Irvine speech by the Israeli ambassador to the United States. And then it goes on further, but then I like to highlight this particular paragraph. After one stupid incident, those students will forever have to answer yes if they are asked by, say, potential employers whether they were ever convicted of a crime. And then it goes on to say, if college students faced criminal charges every time they misbehaved, we could fill the jails with undergraduates. So today we are here to lament this aspect of the justice system when misbehavior of young men, and in some cases perhaps down the road young women, who would be penalized and criminalized for simply speaking truth to power. So we are here today to celebrate speaking truth to power as best as they can, whenever they can, wherever they can, and however they can. So I applaud all of these young men to have done what they have done and give us an example and a role model for us, God willing, to follow. On behalf of these 10 students, we will have 3 of them who will share some reflections today. After that, my dear friend, Reverend Sarah Halverson from Orange County Fairview Community Church, she changed her plans just to be with us this evening in solidarity with us. So give her a round of applause. And maybe if you all brothers allow, because she came all the way only for our purpose, and she is a person of faith and a clergy leader, it may not be a bad idea before you speak that she can be honored for all of us. Sarah, would you please? So please join me in welcoming Sarah Halverson. She is a pastor.
It's good to be among celebrities. I've been watching you guys all week. praying with you. I'm here today as an interfaith witness. I'm here to say that this is not just a Muslim issue, although we all know that religion seems to have played a role in what has happened over the last year and a half, what has happened around the county. But this is not a Muslim issue. This is an issue for all of us as people of faith. And I'm here as a Christian who is outraged, as a Christian who is mourning. We cannot stand by and allow for injustice to happen in our county. We can't let it happen in our nation. Would it be that all of us would be so brave as you all were to stand up against injustice, to speak truth to power, as Shaquille said, to call out an unjust system of oppression that is currently occurring in Israel-Palestine, an occupation of a people that has led to violence. We are all called to stand up. And so I commend you for your bravery, and I'm so glad that people of faith like you are singing and shouting and ringing out the voice of justice for people of faith like me. Thank you. It's a scary day to know that by speaking voices of dissent, we can be arrested and hauled out on accusations, tried in front of all of America, and found guilty. But God knows that you are living by God's law. And sometimes God's law is a law of truth that transcends even the laws of humanity. So I thank you again for standing on behalf of God's law. I know that you inspire me, that there are times when I too am afraid to stand up for what is right, afraid of what the world will say, perhaps even my church will say, the county, the community, afraid of what it would mean to have handcuffs slapped on my wrists. But you remind us that we're called to stand up no matter what. And you did it bravely, so we thank you. Friends, we know that Islamophobia is alive and well in Orange County. We've been talking about it for a while now, haven't we? We've seen it, we've felt it. The harsh experience in Villa Park earlier this year reminds us that we continue to need to stand together. We need to stand as people of peace. We need to remind ourselves that we are one community, inspired and emboldened by God. We come together to stand for the ways of peace, to live out the law, the true law of justice, and to live communal lives of love. And so I'm so glad to be here with you, and I've been so inspired by you. I've cried tears, many, over the last weeks, as I know all who are present have as well. And I want you to know that we stand together as people of faith, united, linked arms in this community to continue to stand on the side of justice. So thank you for being inspiration to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Sarah, for taking time out and being with us. She was in the courtroom for several days, especially the last 2 days during the deliberations and verdict. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of all of us for being here. Thank you. And send her out with a round of applause. Before I also invite the students to come and speak, let me recognize and acknowledge on your behalf and thank them for the extraordinary hard work in putting this program together. Where is Maria and Kifa? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. We are proud of young people when they work hard for the sake of justice, and we honor you, we salute you, we respect you deeply for your work. Sister Maria and Sister Kifa had worked extraordinarily hard. I must also acknowledge the co-sponsorship of this event when Shura Council sent a notification out. Almost all of the community organizations extended their hands immediately. Council of American Islamic Relations, Los Angeles, Muslim Public Affairs Council, Muslim American Society, ICNA, Southern California, American Muslims for Palestine, and I want to make sure I don't miss anyone, Stand with 11, and several interfaith groups whose names I will take later. If the reps of these organizations are here, would you be so kind to stand up to be acknowledged and recognized? CARE, Impact, MASS, and I'm sure there are people who will still be following us shortly. So with that, I'd like to invite one of the 10 students, my dear young brother Asad Idris Trainer. What I like these young men to do is, before you share your wisdom and tell us about the experience, I'd like you to let us know what you are doing in college, whether you are an undergrad or a grad, whether you're studying photojournalism or law or medicine or wrestling, I don't know. So we like to know more about. Reason is that the media has demonized these fine 10 young people. I want to reclaim their dignity and their honor tonight. So join me in welcoming Asad Trainer, one of the 10 from UCI.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. So I'm not going to be able to do the second part of what Amr Shakir said, which is to share wisdom. So I'm going to stick to the first part, and then I'm going to share a few thoughts, inshallah. So as far as my college life, or what my life is, I actually just graduated from my undergraduate degree from UCI last June, in public health science. And so actually, when this whole thing happened in 2010, I was a senior. That was my 4th year in college. I did 5 years. So last year I ended my 5th year and I graduated. But I'm actually back at UCI again, so they weren't able to get rid of me. And I'm doing a master's there in biotechnology, and I'm starting. Oh, I started on Friday morning, so the Friday of the verdict, that was in class. Alhamdulillah. So that's as far as that goes. And the main thing that I really just wanted to say, which is something I know a lot of us want to say and really haven't gotten a chance thus far for a lot of reasons, is really just want to thank everyone. We want to thank everyone for supporting us all through this process. And I won't just, now I'm looking at a full room at Amr Farouk Masjid, right? But this started like a year and a half ago. So I remember this happened on Monday night, I think week 3 of winter quarter in college terms. So Monday night of week 3 of winter quarter of 2010, that's when the protest happened. We were arrested, we were cited, we left the program late that night. And I remember the very next morning when I woke up, I checked my email, and I think Hakeem started sending out articles and stuff. So we started seeing wow, for some reason Haaretz is covering this, and then all this other stuff. And then almost as soon as the articles came out, the letters of support started coming in as well. So we saw the press statements from the organizations, from CARE, from MPAC, Shura Council. I remember Amr Shakir actually sent out an action alert for everyone to call the Dean of Students office. So that was organizational support came almost immediately. I was shocked that, besides the fact that they just supported, I was just shocked that they found out so quickly and were able to actually do something to help. So that was very encouraging, and we never really got the opportunity to thank everyone properly for that. But it was individuals as well. So I got personal emails from people I knew, texts, from people we didn't know too. I remember Maria Banji, who stood up a little while ago. She actually sent us a letter that people were writing us from Palestine. So from Palestine, from students at universities in Palestine were sending us letters and support, and it was all just it was amazing, right? And it was continued. So in the beginning, you think, oh, maybe this is just comes and goes the same way the media coverage does. But one thing that I really appreciated over this whole process was that the support from our local community, as well as the national, even internationally, was very consistent, and if I could ever assume anything on behalf of someone, it was very sincere. And we really felt that, and that really helped us throughout the whole process. So I really just want to thank everyone for that, so Jazakumullah khair. I would do the round of applause thing, but it's not my thing, so just everyone Jazakumullah khair. And I just want to share one reflection on the fact that. So again, this is all, given that I appreciate everyone's support immensely, this is just sort of a reflection that I had, which is that right now we have an entire room filled with people who are here, inshallah, for the sake of Allah, but also to support us, for His sake. And we really appreciate that. And sort of what struck me was that you're all here, and what happened to us was that we did a protest, we were arrested, arrested meaning what, we sat down and they put pieces of metal around our wrists. We were let go like 2 hours later. And for that injustice that we dealt with, we had entire defense teams, 6-7 lawyers, dedicate months out of their time for no charge at all. We had hundreds of people show up to numerous events at UCI, at this very room a few months ago, now today, in the courtroom repeatedly, until filling up all the seats and people waiting outside. And all of this because we suffered this, what is relatively a very small injustice, right? At the end of the day, we got misdemeanor charges, and I'm not trying to belittle that. What I'm trying to say is that relative to what so many other people face every single day, while we were having our press conference outside of that courthouse, there were dozens of people who were homeless sleeping on the street at that very same time. And one of the things that just crossed my mind was that while my father was in college, we're Libyan Americans, so my father went to college in Libya. He did his bachelor's there. And while he was doing his bachelor's, this was after Gaddafi. Now people actually know who he is. So it was after Gaddafi. 1969 was his quote-unquote revolution. And so they were discussing at that time at the university democracy, Islam, and other relevant topics, political issues, as well as Islamic issues. And for those discussions, just for those discussions, no protests, nothing. Just for those discussions, the whole slew of them were imprisoned. My father was released after 3 months, but some of his friends, I remember walking in on my father maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and one of his friends who was in prison with him at the same time died in prison, and was there for it must have been at that time like 31 years. And for nothing other than discussions, because these people had a conscience, because they were observing the society around them, and they felt compelled to discuss it. And they felt compelled to do something to change it. But they didn't even get to that level. They were in prison just for discussing. Some of them were just immediately hung in front of high school at the time. Right? So for those people, and for the people who suffer much greater injustices all the time, every single day, people don't fill auditoriums for them. And people don't write press statements to support them. They do what they do out of courage. They do what they do out of a belief and a stand for justice, and they do it regardless of whether people support them or not. And one thing that I want to say is a lot of people come to me, oh, you have a lot of courage or something. It's very easy to be courageous when you have 9 other people standing next to you supporting you, and besides that, hundreds of other people supporting you every day. So really, relatively, it doesn't take much courage when you have that much support. And so I guess what my real point is that if we as a community can really make people who have that inclination to stand for justice, who want to do that, not just in standing up and making a few statements, but on a consistent everyday level for their entire lives, if we as a community can be there to support them, like all of you have supported us so graciously throughout this entire case, we will be a different community and we will make change, inshallah.
So Saad did not fall too far from the tree when his father went to jail and he did not go to jail. So you have to follow your father's footsteps, God willing, for another just cause. With that, I'd like to now request my brother Tahir Harzallah, who is a resident of Corona. He may or may not say this out of humility, but I must say this prior to he introduces himself in detail, that Tahir is also National Director for the campuses for American Muslims for Palestine, whose board I am privileged to serve. Please join me in welcoming Tahir.
Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man ittaba'ahu wa man wala. Begin in the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. May the peace and blessings be upon his last and final messenger. So for the next hour and a half, I'm going to enlighten you guys. I'll make it very short. But I just wanted to raise these two books up just to show where people gather inspiration for what they do. And if you have not read these and you're an American Muslim, please read them as soon as possible, especially these two books. Malcolm and Martin, M&M Effect, you could say, had a huge impact on my upbringing, especially since before this case started. And I just wanted to give a little story that a very good interfaith friend told me yesterday at an event. Vicky Tamush, she said that she's a Christian woman who works closely with us. And she heard of the khutbah, the Friday sermon that Hussam Aylush and Care gave at the Islamic Society of Orange County on the Friday of our verdict. And his sermon was about the blessings from adversity. When something like this happens, what kind of blessings come from it? And she was so moved by this sermon when she heard it or watched it on I think on video, that she spoke about it to another minister that she was in relation with. And this minister, so moved as well by this sermon, wanted to share this sermon with his congregation. So now this message of blessing from adversity, from the situation that occurred on Friday, is being heard not only in Muslim congregations, but also in a variety of multi-faith communities in Southern California. And this is the beauty of the consequences with regards to what happened on Friday. So, a clear message that I think it's very important for us to think about is that we must not and will not believe that the consequences of noble actions should ever limit us from implementing them. Because consequences may be negative, but a whole lot of positive elements could come from them as well. And I'm not gonna introduce myself that much. I don't think it's that important, but I'm a political science major from UC Riverside. I'll be graduating in December with my undergraduate degree in political science with emphasis in international affairs. And then I'm hoping to move on to graduate school. But these are some of the words that I just really wanted to share with you. And there's so many, as I was going through this book today, after highlighting some of the statements that Martin Luther King Jr. made as he was in jail, or right after he came out of jail, or during his struggle, and now I'm reading through them again, and they mean so much more because of the experience. And one thing that I wanted to highlight from him, just really quickly, was a speech that he made on April 15th, 1960. He made this speech at a founding conference for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And this was the beginning, really, of Martin Luther King Jr.'s activities. And this is what he said. He said, "The students must seriously consider training a group of volunteers who will willingly go to jail rather than pay bail or fines. This courageous willingness to go to jail may well be the thing to awaken the dozing conscience of many of our white brothers. We are in an era in which a prison term for a freedom struggle is a badge of honor. This is Martin Luther King Jr., the dove, so to speak. He was encouraging nonviolent civil disobedience. Civil disobedience is not pretty, it's not nice, it's not polite. Things need to be done to change the status quo. And if those things are not done by us, then somebody else will be chosen to do them. And I think this community is moving in that direction where we are preparing ourselves to become this community that has an effect on American policy, that has an effect that challenges the status quo when it is against the people, when it suppresses the rights of many people. And I hope that, I really want to thank this community, in particular this masjid, for really being there for us, for giving us their money, for giving us their prayer, and for supporting us in court. I want to thank particularly one individual who I really can't remember any moment at court where I didn't see this individual's face, Brother Sayyid Yusuf. He was there almost every day, if I can remember properly, but he was there so many times, supporting us, taking time out of his work schedule. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you for being there with us and standing behind us the entire time. And as many of you also stood with us in trial, none of us really expected to sit for an entire month in wearing suits, sitting at the front of the trial. And I think it's kind of annoying, to be honest, to have to dress that way every day, to sit in front of a judge and the DA. But it really allowed us the opportunity to really bond with each other. Some of the brothers I didn't know prior to February 8th that well. I think Aslam I didn't know that well as Hakeem and a few other brothers that I just didn't know that well. But since then, these past this year and 6 months, this year and a half that we've spent together, we've built this new brotherhood. And I think we kind of enjoyed the trial more than really actually struggling through it. And I think the mothers really struggled more than we did in this trial. And I really, we just want to show this, I think on behalf of all of us, this gratitude for the mothers, because I think they went through a lot of struggle through this trial. The suspense of not knowing what's going to happen, especially if you're not familiar with the legal system in this country. Our mothers were kind of like lost as far as what was going to happen next. My mom, up until the verdict, still thought I was going to go to jail. And even after the verdict, she thought I was going to go to jail. And she made me promise not to protest for like a year. So again, I want to thank the mothers. And there's one just funny story. When the verdict was announced, and all the people were walking out of the room, and I walk up to Hamad Abdul Ghani's mom, and I expected some more like a more emotional reaction, sort of like a very like somber moment, some tears maybe. But I walk up to her, and I was smiling at her. She comes up to me and she's like, ah. Thank you.
That he reminded me of something very important that I meant to do at another time, but I think I must do it now. Those who are the parents and siblings of these young men, if you are in the hall, would you be so kind and honor us and stand up? May God bless you for giving us and giving the community and giving this country these fine young men. Before I invite Brother Muhammad, we have to break for prayers at 5, so we are about 3 minutes away. If you would be so kind, those of you who have to pray or those who like to pray, the sanctuary is right behind, and they will go pray, and then we will come back and resume, and we will have Brother Muhammad speak after the prayers. Would that be all right? Khair, inshallah. So as quietly as possible, if we can all gather in the sanctuary and then come back. Those of you who like to stay here, please feel free to do so. Thank you so very much, very kind of you for quickly coming back. We will resume where we left off the of the 10, 2 brothers spoke with you, and we have one more brother who will speak on behalf of the students, and Brother Muhammad Abdul Ghani. And I would request him as well to please introduce yourself fully. We like to know your resume completely. Again, the intent is for us to know and admire these folks, that all they have accomplished in their hard work and their academic accomplishments. So join me in welcoming Brother Muhammad Abdul Ghani.
I'd like to welcome everyone here. May the peace and blessings of God be upon you all. How you doing, Sheikh Faqih? Okay, so I actually just wanted to begin by thanking everyone first and foremost. To kind of start on a weird note, I actually wanted to thank the media for coming out here. And the reason why I wanted to do that actually was because just kind of looking at the coverage that this particular trial has gotten, I actually have developed a little bit of more of a respect for the media than I previously had. And I'm not just saying this because my fiance is a journalist, but you know, there was one time actually I was talking with her and she was describing to me this journalistic ethic or journalistic code where you know, the media, like where you're supposed to strive to be as objective and fair as possible in relaying the facts, etc., etc. And I really have kind of begun to appreciate that a lot, very much more so, particularly with print media and with radio. And the reason being is because in this world where basically social media is developing, and it's very much a blessing and a curse, you know, everyone is kind of just going out there now and writing their own opinion and their own thoughts out, and there's no real code or no real ethical standard by which people are relaying information. So, you know, I think that's really this, you know, this notion in the press of being fair and objective, and, you know, it might not always be the case, but I think for the most part, on a lot of these issues, they have been fair, and I just wanted to actually express appreciation for that. So, second of all, I actually just wanted to take the time right now to thank all our supporters once again. Thank you guys for being here from the very beginning. You know, perhaps the most heart-touching thing for me throughout this whole process has been how the Muslim community has come together. You know, especially college students, like as youth, you know, historically we've been very much like, we always kind of try to push the envelope and try to be hard, etc. And I know, like, you know, in the past we've kind of come and butted heads with a lot of people within the community because of that, you know, and they, you know, of course from their perspective we're just youth and we're just hard-headed and etc. And from our perspective they're just, you know, they're sellouts and they, you know, they don't care. So one thing that's been really beautiful about this whole process is just seeing our community, you know, youth and non-youth and our elders coming together. Of course, I see all youth in this room, by the way. I see all youth in this room. So thank you guys again for coming out. Thank you again for being so supportive. Wallahi, like I could just keep talking and talking about how much we appreciate your guys' support throughout this whole process. So thank you. I wanted to thank my family, and I think we all wanted to thank our family. Still, I got a head start on that. I am the son of Maha and Muhyiddin, and again, they've been so supportive, you know, whereas they could have been, you know, that night on February 8th when I came home, like, I think they were happy just that I was home, but like, when I came home on February 8th, they were just so patient and so understanding and everything, you know. I know that a lot of other parents, or a lot of other situations, you know, people might not have been so lucky, you know, in the sense that, you know, when they hear that their son got arrested, they're probably going to, you know, how did you do this, you know, et cetera, and they're going to come down hard on them. And I just wanted to, again, thank them for their patience and their perseverance throughout this whole thing. Finally, I just wanted to thank the rest of the guys that stood with me on February 8, 2010, as well as all the other people that attended that event and were in support of the cause. Truly, you are all like blood brothers and sisters to me. And I'm so thankful to have been going through this with you guys, the people on the stage and the people off of the stage. And again, I just want to thank you all as well. You are truly my brothers and sisters. Thank you. So Brother Shaquille, he asked me to talk about my, I guess, career or my resume. It's not, I'm actually glad he did, not because I want to tell you about what I'm doing or we all want to just tell you guys how successful we are or something like that, but more so to kind of just normalize things, more so to kind of get the point across that although we are really upset with what the verdict was and we hope to do something about that in the appeals court, etc., it's okay. We're okay, we're doing okay, and we're going to be okay, inshallah, God willing. I just finished my master's degree at UCI in June, and the reason why I finished in June is because I actually had the opportunity for 2 quarters to go to Egypt, wherein I actually was able to witness the Egyptian Revolution, and that was great. And currently, I'm an entry-level electrical engineer. I'm learning a lot. I'm really benefiting from my workplace. They've been really understanding with me missing so much work for this trial, it's been wonderful, and I really hope to continue growing in the field of electrical engineering. If I don't decide to go into law or something, we're okay. We really are, and I just wanted to kind of get that point across. Now, given that we're doing this town hall here in the Islamic Center, I really actually kind of wanted to put a little bit of focus on the Muslim community. And the 2 groups that I wanted to address were, the parents and the adults of this community, as well as the youth. First, to the parents, many parents have explained and stressed, including my own, the importance of education and the importance of learning. And I just wanted to actually fully agree with that. Education and learning and the time we're spending in school, these are very, very important times. I'm actually regretting all those moments in class where we are not in class, where I was dozing off, etc. And really, education is important. And it really is the key to a successful career and the key to being actually influential in society afterwards. However, part of that education, I really, really strongly believe, is student activism, and is being involved in society and being involved in the issues of our day. People, we always get just stay away from student activism because it's going to hurt your education, it's going to hurt your prospects. I actually, I respectfully disagree. I feel as though I have learned so much at UC Irvine, not just from my classes, but from my involvement just on campus in student politics and in the Palestine issue, etc. And it is absolutely essential that I have that experience. And a lot of people, for example, they do that, or they do kind of listen to that advice and they just focus on their education and don't get involved in politics and they don't get involved in real issues of our day. But what unfortunately ends up happening is they lose touch with their communities, they lose touch with social justice issues. And when they get older and they are successful and they are in a position of influence, because they never learn to take a stand for their principles, they end up never doing that. And so I wanted to stress the importance of education, but education paired with an understanding that we need to stand up for our principles. Dr. Maher Hathoud, who is a senior advisor to the Muslim Public Affairs Council, as well as a member or something along chairman of the Shura Council, as well as a member of the Vermont Mission community, he actually said something really wonderful once. He explained that he wanted the Muslim community specifically to be a light bulb. Not necessarily, relatively to the whole nation. A light bulb is not necessarily the biggest part of a room. It's not, the biggest, most essential component of a room, but it brings light to the room. And part of bringing that light to the room is standing up for that tradition, for that American tradition of standing up against injustice, of taking a stand against what we feel is morally and ethically wrong. And if we really truly want to embrace rather that American line, or that line of American tradition, then I really encourage all parents to please encourage their youth to follow in the lines or in the paths of Martin Luther King, follow in the path of Malcolm X, follow in the path of all these wonderful, wonderful models and heroes who stood up and faced whatever consequences came their way, and stood by their principles regardless. To the youth, I'm not too worried about you guys, but I just wanted to say, don't be deterred. Your voice has historically and always will be a very, very powerful voice in this nation. Your voice historically has helped bring an end to wars. It has helped put racism in check. And your voice will continue to be a very, very important part of the American tradition. So please, youth, do not be deterred. We cool. So we just encourage you all to continue to be cool and continue to take a stand for your principles. I also wanted to actually give a shout out to the Irvine 17. These are actually a group of students at UCI-Irvine who, about a week or two after our event, or after February 8, 2010, they were also arrested on campus for staging a sit-in on campus. And perhaps their cause was even more noble than ours in the sense that not only were they standing up for the rights of Palestinians, but they were standing up for a whole number of issues. And unfortunately, unfortunately their case has not picked up as much publicity, and I think we owe it to them to really try to bring more light to their cause and more awareness of what's going on. They will be going to trial in November, so perhaps maybe we can have that discussion at some point as to how we can help them as well. Lastly, I just wanted to end with a statement that I made shortly after the verdict on Friday. I was asked to repeat it again, so I'll just share this with you. Fear. Fear has been a recurring theme for me throughout this past year and a half. Fear for my future, fear for my reputation, fear of punishment. Fear. We all have fear. But what is it that drives us to overcome our fear? What is it that drives a young boy to stand in front of a tank and hold a rock up high? What is it that in a time of great racial tension drives two athletes to raise up their fists in the air in solidarity with their people? What is it that drives a young woman to stand in a crowded square in the face of a brutal 30-year dictatorship and hold up a peace sign? Whatever it is awe-inspiring. In my context, I can never fathom the amount of courage necessary to do what these brave people have done. But a lot of people ask me what it meant when I held up my arm and I put my finger up. It meant one God, for my belief dictates that I strive to fear God and God alone. Now I understand that not everyone holds such beliefs, but perhaps there is a recurring theme that ties this to holding the rock in your hand, to this, to this. Because just the act of raising our arms up high is an act of defiance. It is an act of defiance not only against injustice, but against fear. Against fear of taking a stand, against fear of what people will say, against fear of what consequences might ensue, against fear of standing by our principles. For if we don't stand by our principles, our lives are truly hollow shells. I pray that we all muster the courage to stand up against our fear, for if we do, perhaps we can truly change this world for the better. And perhaps people will finally understand what we did on February 8, 2010. Thank you.
Today is your day. Say as long as you want to say, whatever you like to say.
Perhaps the most important thing that I wanted to share that I feel horrible for missing was when I was talking about how we need to strive to stand up for social justice, etc., and to pair our education with our activism. My role models in that particular case are actually our lawyers. are people who truly have paired their education with their activism. They have taken what they've learned and they've applied it in a context in which they are standing up for justice. They are standing up for their principles. So I pray, may Allah grant us all the ability to stand up for justice with what we learn in our college institutions, in our high schools, etc., as these wonderful, wonderful lawyers and our wonderful legal team has done.
So Muhammad said in his opening that he was planning to go to Egypt to experience the revolution. I'd like to thank him on all of you, on behalf of all of you, for staying back and starting a revolution here in California. So with that, my brothers and sisters, some of the other 10 members who came a little late, they are here and they made it. They probably were playing video games at home. No, I'm kidding. They are. So how about we start from Shaheen? If you would be so kind to stand up and introduce yourself, and you got a 60 seconds sound box to yourself. And we will go in this direction with the exception of those who already spoke, and then we'll go to this next part of the program. Shaheen, all yours.
Hi, my name is Shaheen Nassar. I'm a chemistry student at UCI, planning to graduate this coming year. And to be honest, it's my fellow co-defendants, it's really hard to follow the... I'm sorry, I apologize for that last remark. But one thing that I wanted to say personally is that I wanted to thank all the people who were there day by day in that courtroom, everybody who stood by us. I just wanted to personally thank those people because aside from that, I think my friends covered pretty much everything else. So thank you so much for everything that you guys have done, and that's about it.
My name is Usama Shabay. I graduated from UCI about a year ago, International Studies and Economics. Currently trying to apply for graduate school, hopefully law school. I guess I would like to say, thanks for the clap. I would like to say first and foremost, thanks for everyone and all the support that we've been receiving throughout this. And definitely, I have to give a shout out to the lawyers, and someone right here, Reeves Alahi, Jacqueline Goodman, Daniel Mayfield, Lisa Holder, and the amount of people who have helped out from the legal aspect. And more than anything, I think they've honestly become part of our family. I think I speak on behalf of all 11 of us, even though not 11 people are here, but somewhere out of town. But I think I speak on all their behalfs when I say that they really have become more than just our legal defenders in the court of law, but really a part of our family. And I think, it's something special that we've been able to create this bond. And also, of course, I have to give a shout out to my mom and dad for all the support throughout this entire process. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mohammed Al-Nasrishi. I attend UCI currently, finishing up in fall. I might do a minor in business management, but that's like my brief background. I'm really bad at public speaking, by the way, so...
You're doing great.
I guess I was really good in front of Michael Warren. I want to thank my parents, my mom, my dad. I want to thank all my supporters out there. I want to thank the lawyers, especially Reem Solani, Dan Mayfield, Dan Stormer, Lisa Holder, Linda Marino, who did the Holy Now Foundation 5, and all these people came together and they did an amazing job. Even though our verdict didn't go our way, like they put the best fight up, and money can't buy that.
We both left out Bob Shoki, so we just want to give a shout out to him. And Bob Mickey.
And Bob Mickey. And all I want to say is that this is just the beginning. This is the beginning of our community becoming an identity, becoming something that we stand for our principles, and let not all of this deteriorate from our own mission of justice and social justice, and moving on and also becoming a fabric of this community, fabric of this nation, because in the end, Allah judges us, and Allah judges by our intention. Thank you.
In the interest of time, if you would be so kind to just hold your applause until we are all done, and then we will give them one big shout. Hakeem.
Hi, my name is Hakeem Kabir. I was a UCI bio major. I just graduated this June, and I'm starting my school in January, inshallah. So I've had the very unique experience of being a member of the 11 and not being a member of the 11. So I've been on the outside looking in and on the inside looking out. So as a member of the 11, I want to thank everyone here and everyone who has supported us throughout this entire ordeal, and especially my parents. I want to thank you for putting up with me through all this. And then as a member of the community, I want to thank you 10 guys for everything you've done for us as a community, and for basically standing up and speaking truth to power. So thank you very much.
Bring you all with the Islamic greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Aslam Akhtar. I just graduated from UCI a couple months ago. Of course, I'd like to thank everyone, especially my parents, Abbasi and Kauthar Akhtar, Jazakumullah khair for everything and for putting up with me for 24 years. And you guys continuously say, everyone is saying that we're proud of you guys, we're proud of you, but in reality, we're just, this is what we do in school, right? So each and every one of you young guys out here, you guys all do the same thing. It's just that we got caught doing it. Wrongfully so, but this is something so. And to everyone out there, if you're proud of us, and if you guys are coming to us and telling us that we're proud of you, be proud of yourself, right? Because we are your brothers, we are your sons and your nephews. And so, tell yourself that you're proud of yourself too. And if you're ashamed of us, then do that to yourself. And in the case of this verdict, we got a guilty verdict. Alhamdulillah, all praises to Allah. But that verdict does not change the acceptability of what we did. Right? It doesn't change anything at all. We were found guilty in a jury of 12 people who had their own, who made that decision. But that doesn't change how we feel about what we did, or how you feel about what your kids did, and your brothers and your sons did. So be proud of yourself. Jazakumullah khair.
One thing I need to admit to though is we had discussions amongst ourselves about the possibility of going to jail. So I was honored to be with Aslam in the same cell. As many of you know, he memorized the entire Quran from cover to cover. So I'd rather have him than myself.
Alhamdulillah, I get to go last. At least I get to think about what I have to say right now. So, first of all, I want to point out one thing. A lot of people call us heroes, and I honestly don't see myself as a hero in this whole ordeal. I never had to stand alone in any of this. The day I stood with 10 other guys, they stood up with me. When I got home, my parents stood up with me. When the files got charged, my lawyer stood up with me. And during the trial, the community stood up with us. So I never had to stand alone in this. Honestly, the support has been amazing, and it's the driving point for me to to be truly happy that I did this. If it wasn't for all the support, I don't know how I would feel about it all, but people ask me all the time, do you ever regret doing what you did? And I automatically say no, because the support I have is truly amazing, and it means a lot. From the bottom of my heart, I mean it. Thank you so much for supporting us, everyone, especially my parents. They've been there since the first day. They've been proud of me ever since. My parents always post things on Facebook all the time. All the arguments. My dad is all the time posting things. So I really appreciate all your support. Thank you so much. Bye.
Before we send them out, this is what I'd like you all to do. Can you please stand up and stand in one line from the middle, all together. Push your chair back. And stay close to each other, as tight as possible. Yeah. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, we honor the 10 young men of the United States of America who made history in UC Irvine 18 months ago. Give them a round of applause. Thank you so very much. Jazakumullah khairan, which essentially means may God give you the best of rewards. Many of you may be wondering what these secret codes that they are giving to us. It essentially means God be great, may God willing, and things of that nature. Thank you all so very much. We have another hour and a half approximately. I like to move this as fast as possible, but give me the pleasure and honor to acknowledge the people who stood with these young men and for their cause. In no particular order, but I made some notes and I will share all of them with you. American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU of Southern California chapter. Again, I would humbly request you to hold your applause until I read all of them, and then we will give them one big long shot. Today we have a board of director from ACLU amidst us, so I'd like to acknowledge my dear colleague and sister Ann Richardson, a board member of ACLU Southern California, who took time out to be with us, with her husband Tom Bryan. Then we have a group of our friends from Nikkei for Civil Rights and Redress, Kathy Masaoka and all of, would you be kind enough to please stand up? Hold your applause. I just want us to see them and acknowledge them. I also like to thank you. St. Chandler from Jewish Voice for Peace, and there are a few people who are not here, but I'll take their name. Jeff Warner from LA Jews for Peace, Reverend Wilfredo Benitez, rector of St. Anselm's Church. He might show up at some point. Sarah Halverson, who just left. Tom Eggebine, who, raise your hand, Tom. Reverend Tom Eggebine. Peter Larman from Progressive Christians Uniting. John Forney, also from PCU. Bishop Steve Gilliland from LDS. And we have with us Bob Williams, who is a canon at Episcopal Diocese. I'll introduce him a little bit more later. Raise your hand, Bob. And certainly Kristen Escher from Court Pink. Kristen, raise your hand. Now we can give them a big round of applause for the record. I missed the Interfaith Witness Group, Vicky Tamouche, and the Progressive Jewish Alliance. My apologies. There has been so many great friends who were with us in this struggle. Quick question to Reem, Jackie, and Dan. Are you time pressed in any way? You're here until 7 o'clock?
Very, very late.
Pardon me? You came late, so you can stay late, right? Do you really have to go? Because we have okay. So this is what we like to do. We like to first ask the interfaith leaders and our justice partners to come up and take the seats here and then have their remarks shared with us. So Tom, Kristen, Bob, Kathy, Esty, Vicky, and who else is here? Am I missing anyone? Steve? Great. So we have this group of friends who have stood with us all along in no particular order. I will just call on them. So I first like my brother Tom, Reverend Tom Egabine, to share a few words. If it would be possible for all of you, I know some of you are clergy leaders, so giving sermon is natural to you. So if you keep the sermon anywhere between 3 to 4 minutes, that would be awesome. We will cover all of you. And then as well, go with the last round with the attorneys, and then we will have some important action items as well. Tom, all yours. Take it away. Or here, either way.
It's Tom Reinhardt Marion. I know it's a terrible name to pronounce, but it's sort of like me trying to understand the Arabic. So if you'll forgive me for having a hyphenated name, my wife and I, simply had to do that when we got married. I am a retired United Methodist minister. I went to the seminary I did because I didn't have to learn Greek or Hebrew in order to graduate. So for those students who have memorized the Quran and speak impeccable English besides, I bow to you. Yes, you have started a revolution. But it is a revolution that, as of yet, does not have the flesh built upon the bones that you represent. You have captured that kind of feeling and that kind of emotion and political will that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King inspired in my generation. In the 1960s, I was on a bus going to Selma. I stood beside the driver as we got into the vicinity because he refused to drive the bus unless a larger target stood beside him. Because the day before, a bus driver had been shot at through the windshield going around a curve. You have stood up. I have stood up. Countless others, as you have recalled, have stood up. They have stood on the shoulders of countless ones before them. And now the cycle continues. And thanks be to God that it does. I would ask how many of you who are here are not of this mosque or are not Muslim. I really want to know. Can you raise your hands? Thank you. Now, I would like for us to have one more hand gesture that had not been included by the student who spoke before. Who was it who held his hand up in the gesture? Thank you for all of those. I offer another one. And it's not unheard of. It is this. Please join me. Please join me. It is not one of defiance. It is one of submission. It is one of receptivity to that which is greater than ourselves. It is a gesture of being open to the holy, by whatever name, and however we perceive of that holiness moving within and between us. And it is a gesture that has another. Simply reach to the one closest to you. And if you need to reach a distance, that's okay. Do it. This is the gesture that counts. I am announcing to you on behalf of a group of us who met earlier this afternoon, a new movement. A movement that these students and their bravery has initiated. A movement that we are choosing to call Reclaiming Orange County. All right. This is not my sermon. I am sorry, Shakil. It is not I who am doing this. Vicky, come up here. She's the one who can help explain some of the detail of what it is that we're about. But I am saying to you, it is time now to reclaim this county for people who believe in the equality of each of us, who believe deeply that we can worship the God of our own faith and recognize that and respect it. That we are people who can fight for and stand up for justice for every one of us. And it doesn't matter the color of our skin or the economic status of our checkbooks. It does matter that we are all children of the one God. That we are children, brothers and sisters, all. And it is time for us to reclaim Orange County for us.
I guess now you know my name. Thank you, Tanner, for what you said. That was very kind. And I would like you to know that after the first request I got for a copy of Hassan's sermon from last Friday, I got about 5 or 6 more, and by the time I left the house just before I came here, I saw there were maybe a dozen more, and I could see the first line of each email asking me, can I have that chuppah? Can you send me the link to that chuppah? So that word is spreading, and it's the exact word that Tom just gave you. It's that unity. It's the recognition that through these 11 young men, we each got that we aren't different and we aren't apart, and nobody's going to divide us. So a few of us who have been around for a while, Dan, if I look familiar to you, it's because I was involved in the LE8 case. I want some of you young folks, especially you 11, to go home and Google LA8 and see what else your attorney has done. If you think he's a hero now, wait till you see his whole history, and Ann Richardson, wait till you see what your legal team was involved in back when I was young. So we sat down, some of us who are into this circle of interfaith relations and politics, and having watched this whole prosecution in disbelief. And we thought, what can we really do? What's concrete that we can really do? We decided as Tom said, to reclaim Orange County. Do you want Tony Rackauckas as your DA anymore? I didn't think so. I don't either. And we decided that we needed to coalesce everybody we possibly could to make sure that we can change things in 2014. It takes a while to make that come about. There's all kinds of other work that needs to be done beforehand. And to do it, we need to be together. We decided to open up a Facebook page. And although I unfortunately wasn't here when you started this meeting, I bet you that Brother Shaquille asked you all to turn off your cell phones. I'm going to ask you to turn them back on again for a moment. And Faisal, are you still here? Faisal, could you please come for a moment? You can turn them on, go to your Facebook page, and I'm going to have Faisal explain to you what you can like, and then I'm going to ask you to stay on it for just 10 more seconds and send that out to 5 more people and tell them you want them to send it to 5 more. Because the people in this room can't reclaim Orange County alone. I want you to take responsibility right here, right now, that you're going to reclaim this county. There's going to be justice. There's going to be truth here. We're going to be unified. Nobody's going to divide us. And we're going to use this tool. And I want all of you to take part in it. I want you to tell us what we can do to make it better and stronger. I want you to tell us how you think we can be more involved and more unified. I'm going to let Faisal tell you about that. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Vicky. Tony Rackauckas has been elected twice without any opposition. Should that happen again? No! Go to this Facebook page, End Corruption at OCDA. End Corruption at OCDA. And hold him accountable for breach of public trust. Did everybody get that page? It's up and running now. Please go like it, send it to your networks, announce it, and join it. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. End corruption at OCDA is the word it is special? Yes. Oh, thank you. End corruption at OCDA. The next will be LADA. These are yours. Chuck?
Hi, I'm Esty Chandler from Jewish Voice for Peace, and I want to echo what Vicky said about we will not be divided. I got an email from my mother on Friday saying that while I disagree with you, I hope you're not too upset about the verdict. I told her we would discuss it this weekend. I explained to her that certainly demonstrations like the one at UC Irvine and similar ones organized by Jewish Voice for Peace are undoubtedly embarrassing to speakers, to event organizers, and sometimes even to the demonstrators themselves. But thankfully, in the United States of America, they're not illegal. In the words of Emily Ratner, one of the young Jewish and Proud activists who shouted out as part of a pre-planned, well-organized demonstration, 5 times interrupting Israeli Prime Minister at the Jewish Federation General Assembly in New Orleans last year, there's no getting around it. What we did during Prime Minister Netanyahu's speech was shockingly rude. But in the United States of America, rude is not a crime. What Emily, Matan, Ray, and the other young JVP activists did was to speak truth to power. They publicly shouted some inconvenient truths. They, just like Muhammad, Khalid, Islam, Joseph, Taher, Shaheen, Mohammed Qureshi, Mohammed Saeed, Osama, and Assad did at Michael Oren's political speech at UC Irvine. They all dared to publicly tell the emperor that he had no clothes. For their efforts, the Jewish Voice for Peace activists have received an incredible wave of support from people worldwide. And what these brave young Muslim activists did was to give voice to millions of people who have endured more than 60 years of displacement, home demolitions, relentless checkpoints, property seizures, siege, and who struggle daily to carve justice from a global structure that finds their very existence inconvenient and inappropriate. And for their efforts, they've been deemed criminals in a case that the prosecution had dubbed the UCI Muslim case. I want you to know that when I explained to my mother all of this, in the end, she agreed with me. And I also want to say that while the jury might have gotten this wrong, the judge got it right. And I'm happy to see everybody standing up and saying that this is not the end. This is just the beginning. The fight goes on. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Kristen Escher. I'm here as an activist with Code Pink in Los Angeles, and also as a person who lived and worked in the West Bank and Gaza Strip for 8 years. I lived under occupation. I know that what these students said to the Israeli ambassador was true. There is a process of ethnic cleansing going on in Palestine, and it is genocide. I want to say not just that these kids were brave for telling the truth, but I want to just remind us all that they did tell the truth, and that these are nonviolent activists. And when they were telling their stories, I was so moved by them as being this generation of strong nonviolent leaders in the United States. And just like what happened to them, they were prosecuted for it. They were threatened with jail. In Palestine, nonviolent leaders are threatened, they're prosecuted, they're put in jail, and they're called terrorists. And I watched it happen over and over, just like it's happening here. And thank God there are so many people who are willing to stand up and speak out and come together here. One thing that really struck me about how selective this prosecution was, and how utterly Islamophobic it was, how completely anti-Muslim, anti-Palestine, pro-Israel this prosecution was that on the very day that the trial started, 2 of my colleagues interrupted Dick Cheney during his speech in Orange County. These women aren't Muslims, and they weren't prosecuted, they weren't cited, nothing happened to them, and we're not looking to get arrested for speaking the truth to power. But we are looking for the truth to be told about this case and cases like it, just in the same way that Muslims in the United States are silenced, Palestinians in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem and the Gaza Strip, are silenced. We're not allowed to tell the truth here or there when it comes to an Israeli. Months ago, 4 non-Muslim women interrupted George W. Bush in his speech, also in Orange County. Nothing happened to them. And none of these women waited for any question and answer, period, when they interrupted these people. They stood up and shouted, "You're a war criminal." Just like these students, dubbed the Irvine 11, stood up and said, "You're participating in genocide," and the various things that they said that were true. And a lot of the responses that I got from people when this verdict came in guilty, I mean, they ran across the board. It was, "I can't believe it." And of course this is what would happen. And then other people said, "Can you explain this to me, because I don't get it. I think I must be missing something." And I said, "You know what? You're not missing anything. It really is this ridiculous of a prosecution. It really is this racist and this Islamophobic." And I'm glad that there are so many people here who are willing to call it for what it is, and I'm grateful to these students who are willing to call Israeli occupation and the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians what it is. Thank you so much.
It is very hard to follow the students. I mean, they were so eloquent, and even the one that said he doesn't really speak, all of them spoke so well. I think that all of us know that the students committed no crime. But there were 2 crimes committed. One was that they went to trial at all, and that the families and the community and all, everybody had to go through so much turmoil. And the second, of course, was the verdict. When I told people what had happened and they had read it online, they were, both tearful and angry. Outrageous is what people said. After 9/11, our community got together with the American Muslim community and realized that we needed to build a relationship and to understand our communities respectively. And one of the things is that our community is also is Christian, many different religions, Catholic, and also Buddhist. And Buddhists were very much marginalized during World War II. And that was another reason why the Japanese were so isolated, because that religion was so strange to most Americans. So that's kind of another thing that I think that, understanding different religions needs a lot of work. But there's a lot of lessons to be learned, I think, from this whole situation. And one is that, of course, our constitutional right to free speech is under attack. And that there needs to be more education in this country, maybe in Orange County especially, that we need to be much stronger in defending that right. I think the second lesson is that even though the DA may think that he won, then you never really are able to suppress the right to protest and to keep people quiet. You can't keep people silent from speaking out against injustice. From my own history, I've learned that even Japanese Americans, and I didn't learn this right away, I learned this in college and afterwards, that even though my own family was incarcerated during World War II and jailed in camps, we had many examples of people that protested in the camps against the food, against the labor conditions, against being drafted. Because they said, as long as you take our rights away and we're in camp, you can't ask us to serve this country. That's not right. You give us back our rights, we'll do that. So even behind barbed wires, people can protest, even if they're jailed. But this country had done a good job of isolating Japanese Americans during World War II, and before that, there was a whole terrible atmosphere of hostility, I think, which sort of mirrors what's going on now. And that the anti-Asian laws, the exclusion acts, all of that really created an atmosphere of racism and hostility towards Japanese Americans, and we were isolated. It was very easy to target us, it was very easy to round people up, and it was very difficult to speak up, but there were those heroes that spoke up. I think that Shaquille said something interesting in the LA Times article, which was, the verdict says that we are foreigners in our own country. And what's kind of interesting is that Japanese Americans, 2/3 were citizens during World War II. My parents were born here. But they were not called citizens, they were called non-aliens. They didn't want to use the word citizen when they put people into camps. And I just want to say that, our values, and I'm sure there are many values in Islam that will keep people strong. But one of our values was gaman, which is a Japanese word for enduring that which may seem unendurable, that you bear up under suffering. And that was something that we carry on today. But one of the things that the camps did do to our community was it did make us the quiet American for a time. And many of us, my parents, wanted us to be quiet Americans, and they wanted us to deny that we are Japanese Americans. And if not for the civil rights movement, for Malcolm and Martin Luther King, and all of the other heroes, if not for the African American community and the ethnic studies and the movement to learn about who you were and the right to be who you were, many of us would not be here today. Many of us would not have fought for redress. Many of us would not even feel strong enough to say, to support others. But I think that because we did, and because we learned from those people during civil rights and Asian American studies, we know that you cannot take that voice away from people. And, we will continue to support the American Muslim community. And I think this case has actually awakened some things in our own community as well for us to relook at that responsibility to speak up. And that whole question of protesting. It is kind of an issue that people are not always that comfortable with. But, it's something that every community has to deal with in different generations. And you know, we had the same battle with our parents. They didn't want us to do protesting. They didn't want us to get in trouble. But you know, thank God all of us did, and thank God that you did. Thank you.
With that, I present to you Bob Williams, who is canon at the Episcopal Diocese of Los Angeles that also covers Orange County.
Thank you very much, Shaquille, and thank you all. I bring you greetings in peace, in the peace that unites us all in one God. I think you know without me saying so what an amazing ambassador Shaquille Saeed is. The Islamic Shura Council, thank you for all you do. On September the 10th, many of us here were together at the Los Angeles City Hall for an observance called One Light. And we found there much more that unites us than divides us. And we thank you for your participation there together with everyone, especially the words of Dr. Maher Hathout and the chant, the Quranic recitation of Imam Salim Ghazali. These were powerful moments for the whole of Southern California to experience, and they ring in our memories now. Our Bishop of the Episcopal Diocese, John Bruno, issued a statement on Friday, and I'd just like the opportunity to read that. Many of you have already seen it, but thank you for the invitation to bring you Bishop Bruno's words. He wrote on Friday, obviously, in light of the Irvine 11 verdicts, there is an immediate need for improved listening to one another across faith traditions and reaching a new place of mutual respect. Today I am calling on fellow Orange County bishops, rabbis, Islamic leaders, and people of faith to come together immediately in renewed solidarity to address the issues and the injustices raised in reaction to these verdicts. The Episcopal congregations will also increase participation in the Shura Council's Open Mosque Day on October the 16th. Thank you for this invitation, to demonstrate our understanding that Islam is at its core a religion of peace within our shared Abrahamic tradition and deserving of equal protection under First Amendment freedoms. Thank you.
In the interest of time, if you all would line up here so that we all could recognize you and give a round of applause before we send you back. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the people who stood up for UCI-MSU. They are not Muslim, they are Americans, just as all of us are. They are UCI-MSU. Thank you so very much. I appreciate your taking time out and your partnership with Shura Council, with the Muslim community at large. In the interest of time, we probably have about 40 minutes or 35 minutes thereabouts. I will take any time if I may request Dan Stormer, Jack Goodman, and Reem Salahi to please come up and share their verdicts for the Muslim community. Please join us. Accompanied with two pretty women and he's confused what to do now. Dan, you are a brother to all of us, you know that, right? Yes. We may not have a whole lot to give you because you are not working today and we are not paying you for the time that you are here, but know that you are deeply seated in our hearts. Okay. Do I speak for all of you? Jackie.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
I turned to Mr. Stormer a moment ago and I turned to him when everybody was so eloquent and I said, I don't have anything to say, and he said, that never stopped you before. Then he pushed me on to go first, so I have no time to gather my thoughts. So what I'm going to do is cheat. Dan Mayfield, one of the lawyers for the Irvine 11, had emailed me a statement. He couldn't be here. He's from Santa Clara County, the bastion of liberalism in California. And I'm not even being sarcastic. So he'd gotten out of Orange County as fast as he could, and he went back home. So he emailed me and he asked me to relay his thoughts for you. So I'm going to do that while I think of something to say myself. I am back in San Jose, and I am sorry that I cannot be with you tonight. Working on this case has been one of the most interesting and enjoyable periods of my life. On one hand, we all have to agree that we would have liked a better outcome from the trial. But at the same time, we have realized that in fact we were able to bring the issues of Palestinian rights and Islamophobia out in the open. I have done many other so-called political trials. In those trials, the issue was always how to bring the politics of my clients into the trial. Here, that was not a problem. The whole trial was about our political beliefs. We all did well. The students are my heroes. My co-counsel will live in my memories forever. I'm thrilled that even in nominal defeat, that our supporters are planning to engage in volunteer work alongside the students. And I'm overjoyed to see the campaign to donate $11 for the 11 spring up on campuses all over the United States. It was an honor to be with you all, and for this brief period of time, I thank you. I could sit down and think, but like Mr. Stormer said, it never stopped me. So this is really silly, but my Facebook status, that's what I'm going to tell you. I don't know, I wrote this after the verdict. And it's still there, I don't really want to say anything else. Anyone can fight a battle that he's sure to win. Courage is going in to lose. These brave young men have taught me what empathy and dignity are. I, unlike so many others, do not weep for them today. I do not pity them or myself. To borrow from Mohammed Abdel Ghani, what makes a young boy stand in front of a tank and hold a rock up? What makes a young man stand up to power, to lift his arm and his voice in the face of power and speak truth to it, despite his own fears? That is truly awe-inspiring. I am inspired, I am grateful, and I'm changed. I have to tell you that the students say here tonight what they've said all along, and I mean, part of what makes them heroes is their humility, I think. But I honestly believe that what makes people heroes isn't something unique. I mean, that's the beauty of it, is that we all have it in us. And they remind us of that. You know, they're extraordinary people, each and every one of them. And I've learned so much from all of them and from my co-counsel. If I start to get into that, I won't be able to finish the words that I really want to tell you. But I think the magnificence of it is that the human spirit is capable of fantastic, great, wonderful things. And we all have it in us. And I don't think that that day when they stood up, that they had any idea how far their voices would reach. I don't think that. But I think what they did do was they listened to their conscience and they did what was right. And in that small thing, sometimes it may seem small, I know to them sometimes it seems small, it is magnificent. It's no different than Rosa Parks did that day. It's no different than Malcolm X or Martin Luther King Jr. did. It's no different than any of the heroes that we celebrate for their own civil disobedience, because they had the courage in that moment to see the injustice and to interrupt it, as these young men did. And I am absolutely inspired by them. I want to thank you all. And I also want to say one last thing. See, Dan was right. Had we won this verdict, to be honest with you, had we won, I would have felt selfishly good. I would have been able to brag about it in a sense. I would have tried to look humble, but I wouldn't have been humble at all. And we would have sort of gotten a selfish victory from it. But the only way that we can make a real impact in this case is by losing. The only way that the laws can be changed, the only way that we can have a voice in the California Supreme Court and in the United States Supreme Court, if it takes that, is for us to lose. We had to. And it's a step. It's only a step. And it was the first step we had to endure. But we're not at the end yet. And I'm so, so grateful for all of the support. My father's Jewish and my mother's Catholic. And every time I come into these situations with all of you, I feel so welcome and so appreciative. And I believe truly that it is one God. And I'm so, so grateful to all of you for all the support you've given us and to these young men who are indeed my heroes. Thank you. I couldn't see over that thing.
This is what I had to endure for how many months? So every time Jackie talks about the Supreme Court, I have to say that it makes me shudder. She always is
You
like,
got this.
"We're going to the Supreme Court." I'm like, "Don't say that." So I first want to say, what these students did, and this was part of. First of all, thank you guys for being here and for being so supportive. I honestly think that our role was so minimal compared to your role, compared to the community's role, and I think that the reason why the students had the strength to fight this was because of everyone here and because of all those that are not here but were there during the trial and during the entire process when the students got arrested on February 8, 2010 for the entirety until the verdict came out and continue to be here. Again, the room is packed and I'm so used to continually seeing rooms packed of supporters, and I just want to thank you guys for being there on behalf of myself and on behalf of the students. So thank you. One of the themes of the trial is that college students protest, and this is, one of the elements, and I don't want to go into the law too much, but one of the elements is what is customary, what is the norm on college campuses. And the reality is that college students protest, and they protest in very similar manners as what these students did. And so, a lot of people are talking about heroes being heroes being heroes, and what these students did was really not that different than what most students do when they're on college campuses. College students go to political speeches, they heckle, they are very involved in doing various types of protest, including what these students did. And so the reason, in my mind, these students are not heroes because they stood up and spoke those words of dissent against Michael Oren. I think the reason they are heroes in my mind is because they had the strength to fight it. When they stood up and they were arrested, we thought that this was going to go away. It was going to be a conversation with the university administration. The DA was just going to throw it away, just like all other cases where you have students who get arrested for doing things, or community activists who get arrested for doing things for protesting. We just thought that the DA and the university would totally throw it away. And then when we realized it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and we realized there was something very different about this case than other cases, that's when we started to get nervous. And we began, when I was representing them during their administrative proceedings, we began to hear about, and you've heard this story before, we began to hear about investigators coming around town, knocking on students' windows and doors, even at 7 a.m. On Sunday morning, saying, we want to talk to you, we want to know what's going on. And these are not these 10 students, but other students who were either at the protest or were involved with the MSU. And then we began to hear about a grand jury investigation, which was totally mind-blowing. I remember calling Jack and I'm like, what is going on? This is crazy. And what we found out was, 6 other students, not the 10 or the 11, but 6 others were compelled to testify, as well as the university administrators were compelled to testify. We then heard about search warrants, 5 search warrants, and all these students, emails, including other students who, some of you guys are here, who some of them don't even know that their emails were obtained through the district attorney, but I've actually gotten to read all of their emails through this process, and I apologize. I know many of your secrets now, but all of their emails were obtained through 5 search warrants, and then again, that was like, oh wow, something very serious is happening. And then we got a call about, we want to offer you a settlement. And so that was strange. We're like, okay, what's this conversation? And we meet with, Jackie was there, I was actually there via Skype because I was in New York at that time. And sure, lo and behold, it was Tony Rakakis, the head DA, who wanted to talk settlement. He wanted to offer these students a settlement. And I have to tell you that for most individuals at the age of, varying from at that point 18 to 21, 22, you have the head district attorney coming to you and saying, we're willing to settle this case if you do X, Y, and Z. Most of them would be like, oh yeah, give me whatever you have, I don't want to deal with it, because we didn't know at that point whether they were even looking at felonies, whether they were looking at misdemeanors, what was happening, because we kept hearing about these grandiose actions from the district attorney's office. And the reason these students are heroes is because they actually said, no, we're not going to take the settlement because we didn't commit a crime. We did not commit a crime. We stood up and we protested. We protested like college students protest and like college students generations before us and generations after us protest. And we didn't commit a crime. And so these 10 or 11 students actually were brave enough to say no, even though they didn't know what was going to happen afterwards. They didn't know whether they would have the funds to hire a legal team. They didn't even know if there was going to be lawyers who would be willing to represent them at that point. And they fought it. And they fought it. And they fought against all the power of the state. You know, you had the Orange County District Attorney coming in, the head of the homicide unit, who hasn't done a misdemeanor in probably 20 years or ever, maybe. You know, he was the one who was trying this case against these students. And these students fought up, and they stood up, and they showed up, and they fought it. And they were never, and despite, you know, there was many people who said, if you read the news articles, you would read the comments in the news articles about how these students are terrorists and they need to go back to where they came from, and they still stood up. And they were not afraid, and they did not ever back down. They never backed down. They never called me and said, hey, you know what, let's go with a settlement. Let's just go with a settlement. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I never got a single phone call asking to just end the process at that point. And so the reason these students are heroes is not because they stood up and spoke out against Michael Warren, but because they were willing to fight this selective prosecution, this discriminatory prosecution. And they still stood with heads high, even as they got the verdict. And I have to tell you, you know, I was a ball of tears on when we found out about the verdict on Friday. But these guys, they were the ones who were like, no, don't worry, it's okay, it's okay. You know, they were the ones, rather than me trying to keep up their spirits, they were the ones who were trying to keep up my spirit. And so to that, I have to say that these 10, 11 boys, they are like brothers to me. And I want to thank them for making me a stronger person and really teaching me what it means to be a civil rights lawyer, where no matter what happens, you still stand up high and you say, we're going to fight this, even if it means going to the Supreme Court. I hope not. I hope not. I want to thank them, and I really,
you are here. I have kind of a confession to make, which is I'm terrified of public speaking. It's true. Now that's why. I've forgotten about our contact with the LA8. I don't know how many of you remember, but you know, it is a tribute to the concept that the fight for freedom is based upon eternal vigilance. We're talking 1987, a group of Palestinians and one Kenyan woman. I remember it like it was yesterday. I woke up one January morning, and there on the front page of the LA Times was this article, a big screaming headline, and it said, "Terrorism Roundup in LA." And they took these men, and one Kenyan woman, as they always said, and they, when we went to meet them at Terminal Island, they were shackled hand, foot, at the waist. It was incredible, and it turns out that their primary crime was that they were Democrats. I mean, that's about the worst thing that they did during that particular repressive Republican time. I mean, and in many ways things have not changed. But one of the things that has changed is the willingness of people like yourselves to come out and support the students. I'm looking around and I see people whose faces were there at the trial. I see people who were witnesses at the trial. Omar was a witness. I don't know if there are any other witnesses who were here. I mean, people were willing to step forward and pay the price to seek freedom. And this community needs to continue to emulate what these wonderful young men have done. The community needs to support free speech. It needs to continue to speak out on issues of great importance to your community. I've been doing this for a mere 37 years. 37 years as a civil rights attorney is a long time. But I will tell you this about these 11 young men. It has been an honor to represent them. I like an honor I've never had before. And I've kind of decided that they're guilty. That's right. They're guilty of caring about their community. They're guilty of being willing to stand up for what they believe in. They're guilty of seeking a peaceful resolution to issues that are just incredible importance. And they're guilty of maturity. And I just think that every one of us can learn from these young men. Thank you.
If I may ask all the three attorneys, just like I did with all other groups, to stand together so we can salute you. Ladies and gentlemen, although we are missing three attorneys and these three are representing all six attorneys for the defense, as defense team for all UCI-MSU. God bless you.
I would actually, I forgot.
Please do.
I would like to also thank the people of my firm, one of whom is Ann Richardson, and Reem is also with our firm. And I really thank you very much for the support that you as a partner have given to this case.
The last segment of the program is to recognize and honor the community leadership and organizations who have done their part from the beginning in this situation. The co-sponsors of this event, if the representatives of these folks are here, Sister Amina Qazi from Council of American Islamic Relations, I received a note from Salam Al-Marayati from Muslim Public Affairs Council that he was unable to make it, but I was told that Haris Tareen on his behalf is going to be here. If Haris, you are here, please come up. And if you are not, anyone from Muslim American Society who is here, Sister Sundus, or any other leader from the Sister Sundus. And I believe there are a few others from IGNA Southern California. If anyone is here, you're more than welcome to come up. While Sheikh Muhammad is walking here, let me also thank profoundly for the extraordinary patience demonstrated by some of the friends who now have become friends from the media. Nicole Santa Cruz from Los Angeles Times. God bless you for taking time out and being with us for this long. So I believe Sheikh Muhammad is still making his way, but in the interest of time, before I invite our two speakers to come and give the closing remarks, again, out of respect, there are many people here who have contributed in very, very unique ways for this case. And I'd like to thank Chuck Anderson for coming today, board member of UCI-MSU. And I also like to thank Nick Dibbs, as always. You stand with us. Thank you very much. And I know Father Wilfredo has joined us. Thank you, and I'll let you do the closing prayer for us today. With that, I'd like Sister Sundus to please come up and say whatever you like to say on behalf of Muslim American Society. It's an awesome experience to see young people leading us. Sundus?
Greet you with the greeting of Islam. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all. In the Quran, there's a chapter that states, "I'dilu huwa aqrabu lit-taqwa," which means be just, for it is the closest to God consciousness. There's another saying of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, "Unsur akhaka zaliman aw mazluma," which means help, support your brother,
to be victorious, whether he is oppressed or an oppressor. So what does that mean if the person is an oppressor? It means by advising him not to be an oppressor. We urge all of our community members, mass members, our community, our masajid members, to keep the Irvine 11, their lawyers and everybody and their families, and send positive remarks to them and keep them in your prayers. Another thing that's really important is to continue to raise funds for the Irvine 11. You know, the trial ended, but the money, the bills and the expenses still go on. And if we're going to be going for an appeal, that's even more. So please make sure that you support them financially as well. And speaking up for the oppressed and voiceless is never easy or popular at the time. But God rewards us according to our intentions and the struggle it took to do what is right. And we salute the Irvine 11. Our brothers have won the honor of standing up for the truth. For us to join them in this honor, we not only stand with them with our feelings and prayers in our heart, but it also means standing up with our voices, our tongue. Our time, our money, and our community, organizing through our hands and our actions. We cannot be happy with the lowest level of faith, for we can do much better than that. Thank you.
Sister Nina, would you, is Sheikh Mohammed bothering you? Please join me in welcoming Sister Amina Qazi, Deputy Executive
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How many of you have ever had to share a table with Sheikh Mohammed? Not the funnest thing, no, subhanAllah. Jazakumullah khairan to all of you, and for especially staying till the end. I think the beauty of this community, alhamdulillah, keeps showing itself in every moment, in every instance, in every occasion. And I am so proud, alhamdulillah, to be here with the community. I'm not very, I can't even think of the word, social media savvy, Facebook stuff, but I was able to finally find that page. It's actually End Corruption at OC space DA, End Corruption at OC space DA. So please take out your cell phones. I just liked it myself. Alhamdulillah, in the last 20 minutes, there's been another 30 people to like it. So please go ahead and like that at this moment. I know corruption is a very strong word, but I don't know how else to describe what Tony Rockakis and his office did. I don't know how else to describe what they did. If it's not corrupt to spend millions of taxpayer dollars on 2 misdemeanor offenses, I don't know what corruption is. If it's not corrupt to suppress free speech for these students, our community, because they oppose inhumane Israeli practices, I don't know what corruption is. If it's not corrupt to go through this horrendous trial, subpoena young students, to use privileged communications to actually bring charges against them, I don't know what is. And if it's not corrupt to actually stand in the courtroom the day the verdict is being read and the sentencing, as Mr. Tony Rockakis himself did, standing in the corner of that courtroom, gloating, I don't know what corruption is. It's time that our community stands up for these 10 students and for all of our collective rights and get corruption out of Orange County. Now, we've talked a lot about pride the last year and a half, and I have to say I do share that sentiment. I have never been more proud than standing behind these young students at the press conference after they received both the verdict and the sentence. I've never been so proud to stand behind them and see their faces held high as they spoke about how if they could do it again, they would do it again. Because they're not just speaking out against oppression, they're speaking up against apathy. That's what some of them said. They're speaking up against apathy. They're showing passion for what they believe in. And as Asad say, let us take that as an example. Let it not end with this case. Let it not end, well, first of all, this case is not over yet. This case is not over yet. We are going to stand with the attorneys and stand with the ton until it's over in our favor, inshallah.
Inshallah.
But let us not end with this case. Let us use the example of caring about things, about being impassioned about things, and speaking up against oppression and speaking up for what is right when it matters most. When it matters most. Let that be the lesson of our community. Let that be the new Orange County. That people across the country look at Orange County and don't say, oh my gosh, Orange County, the new housewives, OC, whatever. Let them look at Orange County and let them look at it as a harbor of free speech, as a harbor of justice and understanding. That's the Orange County and the community we want to put forward. I am also extremely proud of our community, as I said, who has never failed to come up and support not just these students, but their rights and what they're standing up for. I have to say I'm extremely grateful to the Defense Council, to the defense team. I have to give a special shout out to my girl, Ms. Reem Salahi. Some of you know, and I'm going to try not to get emotional here, Reem and I actually went to college with each other, and we actually did our fair share of troublemaking. She used to run around in horrible camouflage pants. I used to run around with a horrible beanie, black beanie that said Islam all over it, and we made as much noise as we potentially could. But that's the point. That's what college is about. That's what this country is about. Where you learn, you expand, you grow, so that you can become the advocates, the professionals, and still stand up for what's right no matter what and no matter at what cost. And let her be an example, these students be an example, and our community be an example to always come together. And today is just the first day. Today is the first day. I hear that there is a growing movement to actually perform the community service with these young men. They have 56 hours of community service. To perform the community service with these young men. They've done their community, they're doing their community service. But I say let's join them and go out of our way and make 2012 our community's year of community service. And we all stand with them and commit to doing 56 hours times 10 hours of community service throughout the year. That they didn't just do this for us. Let us all take pride in serving our community together, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
I hate to do this. I know we all like to listen to much more, but because of the prayer that is going to be called in the next 12-13 minutes, I have to do 3 items, and the first one of which is Sheikh Muhammad, who is the Imam of this mosque, and also one of the many Imams who have been in support of this case. So Sheikh Muhammad, on behalf of all the Imams.
Brothers and sisters, friends, and those who may not be so friendly, just in case you're in the audience, I want to greet you all with the greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum. I'm not standing here today as the Imam of the Islamic Institute of Orange County because I'm actually on vacation. I'm not kidding, I am on vacation. But I'm standing here as just a community member that was inspired by 11 brave young men, and was even further inspired by the support that these 11 men received from their families, from the community, from the interfaith coalition that came together. I mean, look at us here. What does it say? I mean, this is the one time where I see Muslims, Jews, Christians, and even people who don't ascribe to any of these ways of life coming together for the same cause. So this in and of itself says something about this case and about these people. I want to salute them. I want to salute each and every single one of them, but we don't have time to mention the names of all of them. Those young men that we came to know as the Irvine 11 made it, they actually made history. And I wonder if the verdict was something else other than the guilty verdict, whether it would have been as strong of a statement, right? It is enough that the verdict came on the same day that the Palestinian people represented in Mahmoud Abbas basically submitted their request officially to the United Nations to be granted statehood, which I think they should be granted. So a time will come, and I assure you, mark my words, a time will come. It may not be in our lifetime, but a time will come where people will be looking back at this period, and they will look at these 11 students and what they did, and those who were in support of them. And they will look at those people that actually came together and conspired to get them in trouble. Like a person that I can't mention his name because I'm not a lawyer. Amina is a lawyer. She can speak about a sitting DA. I cannot. But people will look back, and there will be people who will be very proud of the Irvine 11, and there will be people who will be very ashamed of what the DA and those who were in support of this trial moving forward did and said. Let me just conclude with this. When the verdict came out, I was trying to basically refresh my page, sitting, waiting. I had a khutbah to be given at UCLA, and when I finally saw it, I said, I don't even remember what my reaction was, but I went and I told my wife and my children that the Irvine were found guilty. But then later someone asked me, what did they do? Can you imagine explaining this to like a 10-year-old? What were they guilty of? Well, they were guilty of, and I still don't know what the charges exactly were, but disturbing peace, conspiracy to disturb a meeting. Who was the victim? The Israeli ambassador. And what did they do to him? Well, he was supposed to speak for 25 minutes, but he ended up speaking only for 20 minutes, so they robbed him of 5 minutes of his speech now. Poor guy. And why did they do that? Because they believed that he was a war criminal, they were speaking against him. And what did they receive? Well, they received whatever the sentence was, 56 hours. Oh, the most active people in the community doing community service, they've been warming up for this for the past I don't know how many years, right? So we welcome that. We welcome that, but the fight goes on. And as I said on my Facebook, as soon as I basically saw that, I posted the following. I said, time for round 2. This is not over. This is not over. So we're gonna, keep this going. Alhamdulillah, at least, the day before, the DA finally pressed some charges against a couple of the police officers in the city of Fullerton involved in the beating, the brutal beating of Kelly Thomas. So at least, I don't know whether it's the pressure of this or that, but anyways. But I think, as Amina said, I second what Amina said again, as a member of the community, I think we need to look into this effort of making sure that those who represent us in any capacity work for the best interests of their people, not the best interests of someone else. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
They are going to give us some piece of advice as to where do we go from here, and after that I have only one statement and then we will do it with closing prayer.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Kifah Shah. I am the newer spokesperson for the Stand with the 11 campaign. I'm very lucky and blessed to have Mario as my mentor. I know I'm actually a relatively new face to the community as well, and I actually graduated from UC Berkeley, and alhamdulillah, Orange County is the place that I came to, and I know that sounds a little weird because you don't really hear that a lot, but I think it's been a really big blessing to come here because the activism that I've seen throughout this community is really inspiring. And when the verdict came out, the only thing I could really think of was this quote by Angela Davis. She's a scholar, a professor, a writer. She was
involved in the civil rights movement and the Black Panthers. And she said, "It is our duty to fight for freedom. It is our duty to win. We have nothing to lose but our chains." And so I feel like at this point, that's what we're going to do. We always know what it's been like to be an underdog. We know what it's like to be criminalized, to be victimized. But the Irvine 11 are a testament to the fact that we don't stay there, that we fight, and that we give voice to ourselves and to those who are denied it actively, Palestinian, or people who are throughout this country who have been criminalized, like Kathy talked about in terms of Jackie's internment and whatever we've had in the past. So, with that said, it is our duty to fight, and then Maria's going to tell you how.
And peace be upon you for those of us from other faiths. So this case has been a very emotional one for me. I know many of the Irvine 11 personally. I've got to know many of their family personally, and when the verdict came out, it was like all I could do not to cry, honestly, just because we were so shocked. I don't think anybody was expecting it. And then as time went on, I got really, really angry. Very, very angry. And I've stayed angry. And I think that the reason why I'm angry is because this is not over. We need to fight this. This is not justice, and we are American citizens, and we deserve our rights just like anybody else. I'm honored to be here with all of you. I'm so glad we got a chance for everyone to come together and talk about this. But there are concrete steps that we are going to take now as a community, right? We're going to stand with the 11 because this is not over. We are going to appeal this. So the first thing is this website. I'm sure most of you have heard of it. It's Irvine11.com. Please watch it. We're going to have some information up in the next few days. As many people referenced before in terms of the community service, we're going to try to put together some community events where we can do community service with the 11, maybe dealing with freedom of speech and doing some symbolic work there. Also, we ask that you all donate. Obviously, we are going to need funds as we move forward in appealing this case. So if you can all, right now, just make the intention to donate a little bit, whatever amount that you can afford. You can donate at the Muslim Legal Fund of America website. The link is on the Irvine11.com website. Besides that, the one thing that I really recommend is that the gag order has been lifted off of the Irvine 11 and off of the lawyers. And as they demonstrated today, now that they finally have their voice back, they're really very eloquent in speaking for themselves. So let's give them that opportunity to go out into the community and to go out across the country and speak about this cause so that when we appeal this, it becomes a national issue. Thank you.
So as we are coming to the close, let me also recognize our brothers from Stand with 11, who I believe did the live broadcast today. And I believe these links will be available to us at a later time so people can watch. And I think this will be linked with Stand with 11 and Irvine11.com as well. My friends, as we are coming to close, I'd like to thank the board members of the Islamic Shura Council of Southern California for allowing us to put this program together. Brother Masood Naseem, some of them are here, not all of them are here, but the Samir Subra, who is the vice chairman, Brother Masood Nasimi, and also Brother Kaleem Farooqi. These three brothers are here. There are many others who are not here. Jazakumullah khairan for giving community this opportunity and occasion to get together and celebrate, in fact, what has happened. Maria and Kifa has given us a mission that this is not over. I am reminded of a gentleman by the name Fred Karamatsu. 1944, I believe, if my memory serves right, Supreme Court ruled that his incarceration, rather his internment, was justified in the time of war. The Japanese American community stood up with him for 40 long years until November 10, 1983 to overturn the decision of Supreme Court in the San Francisco Superior Court, and Fred Karamatsu today is remembered and in the annals of American history, and the history will remain incomplete without Fred. UCI-11's history will remain incomplete if we all collectively, consciously, deliberately, intentionally choose to not give up the fight until such time that this ruling is completely overturned and these 11 people become part of American history. Wow. If we wish to make history, history does not happen just because. Patience, hard work, in cases, spilling of blood, just as our African American brothers did in this country, only then we can reclaim and restore the dignity and honor of all people. And in this case, we will not end until such time that the honor and dignity of UCI-11 is restored to its fullest. In the tradition of solidarity, my brother, Father Wilfredo Benitez, who is the rector of St. Anselm Church in Garden Grove, who stood with this cause from day one. He came a little late, so I have the honor of presenting to you Father Wilfredo, who will do a prayer, a closing prayer, and send us in prayer. After that, there will be a prayer call. Those of you who are not going to be observing those prayers, if you would be so kind to maintain as silence as possible, we will greatly appreciate in order for them to enjoy the spirituality now at the end of the day. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. All good in Islamic tradition, it is said, comes from God. All weaknesses and shortcomings are ours. I apologize to all of you on behalf of your council for any shortcomings that you have experienced today. God bless you for taking time out and coming, and God willing, we will be together in this fight forever.
I salute the Irvine 11. It's been a great honor to stand in solidarity with the Islamic community during this time of persecution. As a Christian witness, as someone who is visibly engaged in being a prophetic presence in your midst, and I hope I've done that. Thank you for the honor of asking me to close with prayer. Before I do that, I would like to share with you that, yes, this is a civil rights issue, and we all need to stand up for that, but I approach this from a faith perspective. We all come from an Abrahamic tradition, whether you're Jewish, Christian, or Muslim, and that tradition contains a strong prophetic message that calls us to denounce injustice wherever it is. And that's what the Irvine 11 students were doing. And during the end of this trial process, as I sat there in the court the last day of the trial, I have to say that I felt an incredible presence of God's Spirit in that courtroom. In spite of the fact that the outcome and the verdict was not what we wanted, was not what we were hoping for, was not what we were fighting for, was not what this incredible legal team strived for, God was present in that courtroom. And God is present here, God is present in the life of these students, and God is present in the struggle that will continue. And this is something that I think all of us can relate to from a faith perspective and have a responsibility to do so. So at this time, we only have a couple of minutes left. Let us bow our heads in prayer. Most holy and gracious God, Allah, Yahweh, source of all compassion, source of all mercy, source of all liberation, freedom, source of all justice, source of all power that binds us together as one humanity, source that brings us together to create in our midst your promised land, your kingdom, your world ruled by justice, your world ruled by equality, your world where we are all brothers and sisters. Thank you for these students that we remember this day and we uphold on this day, and we pray that your blessing be upon them and the struggle ahead. Thank you for the legal team. Thank you for the community members who were present throughout all of this, and we pray your blessing upon them. We pray that you give us strength to go forward. We pray that you give us vision to go forward. We pray, O gracious God, that you give us the grace to stand firm in the face of injustice, in the face of oppression. And we trust in your will, O God, Allah, Yahweh. We trust in your will. We trust in your blessing. and we trust in your victory. And we do this in the name of all that is sacred, in the name of God. Amen.
May we all go in peace. Thank you very much.